Hey everyone, welcome back to the Keep Watching podcast, where we decide what to watch so you don't have to. I'm James.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we're going to be talking about Dickinson. So Sarah,
Yes.
just a little behind the scenes for the listeners. We are recording this episode only 2 days after we recorded the Andor episode.
Yes. I have to go away for work, and I ruined the schedule.
Sarah will be traveling next week, so we wouldn't be able to record next week. So we'll come out. This will be out on like normal time, I think. But yeah, so we don't have as many check-ins in what we've been watching because it's only been 2 days. Do you have anything, Sarah?
I'm not even up to date on the latest episode of Andor.
Okay.
Ooh, I did watch the latest episode of She-Hulk, which I think is the second to last episode, and it's continuing to be good. So I'm excited.
Okay. I'm not caught up on She-Hulk. I am actually, though, caught up on Andor.
Ooh,
After
not
all
what I expected.
Yeah, I had to keep going on Andor just to see if anything was going to happen in that show, and I watched episode 4, and yeah, now we have a show now. I'm in on Andor.
Okay.
And then I've watched 5. I've also watched episode 5. It's still slow, but it's actually building towards something now. Whereas like the first 3 episodes were just slow, and that was it. No, not a slow build, just slow.
Just slow.
But now it's building towards something interesting.
I'm glad you're on board now.
It's basically like a heist. A heist is happening, which is interesting. I don't know if a heist is going to be the entire show or just like this 3 episodes of the show, or I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm in on Andor now. So if you listen to the Andor podcast and heard all my complaints, I still think the first 3 episodes weren't very good, but I think the show's going somewhere now. And I think it's telling that, they made this show and then they gave it to Disney, and Disney was like, yeah, we're releasing the first 3 episodes all at once. Like, nobody will make it through if we do this like 1 week at a time.
I think it's because it's a perfect beginning arc, It like really sets up where the show's going, but
it does, but should it take an hour and 45 minutes to set up a show? I don't know. I guess a lot of shows are like that.
I still loved it, but
yeah, I mean, you were in from 5 seconds in, so you would have been in either way. But yeah, that's all I have. We can get to Dickinson pretty quick here, right, Sarah?
Yeah, I would say yes. Let's do it.
Okay. Dickinson is on Apple TV Plus, unfortunately.
Your nemesis.
My nemesis, Apple TV Plus. It is about Emily Dickinson, but it's not like a biography, sir. It's like, I feel like the first season was like trying to be grounded in potentially somewhat accurate
reality
stories. I don't know. At the start of the second season, they say something like, at this point in her life, there isn't many like records anymore. So like, they basically like let you know, like, okay, this is really not going to be a true story anymore. I would just watch it as if like, none of this is necessarily true. Mm-hmm. It's very fictional, but it's still in the same time, the accurate time period. Mm-hmm. But this show ran on Apple TV Plus from 2019 to 2021. So I believe it's over
now.
I believe it's over. 3 seasons, 10 episodes a season, so 30 episodes.
Okay.
And here's the wiki cell of this show. Dickinson takes place during Emily Dickinson's era with a modern sensibility and tone. It takes viewers into the world of Emily, audaciously exploring the constraints of society, gender, and family from the perspective of a budding writer who doesn't fit into her own time through the imaginative point of view. Dickinson is Emily's coming-of-age story, one woman's fight to get her voice heard. That sounds like something you'd want to watch, Sarah.
There are elements of it that speak to me, but also there is this ever creeping like, oh, the historically accurate sexism is going to make me angry and make it hard for me to watch this, which is true of many shows.
You've told me about this opinion of period pieces like this.
It even doesn't have to be that old-timey. Like, I could not finish Mad Men because I was just so angry all the time.
Okay. I've never watched that, so I don't even know what that's about. So
it's set in the 60s. It's about guys who make ads, and there's so many women in it that get treated so poorly. It's just awful. Okay. But it's a good show, but I could not get through it.
Got you. And you've told me about this opinion before, and I would say that exists in this show, right? But there's a bunch of
yes.
stuff that I think you are going to like that are in this show. So I just wanted to see, I wanted to see what wins at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Okay.
We will see.
Yeah. Here's the Google breakdown of the show is the show is not a biography of Dickinson's life. It is a fictional exploration of some of her known facts, some of the known facts about Dickinson and the traits and concepts found in her poetry. It also includes references to historical events that happened within Dickinson's lifetime and cultural norms of the 1800s. So that's how they would describe the level of fiction. Basically very fictional.
I would say either of those two descriptions, even though they do mention a modern sensibility, still would not have prepared me for what this show really is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We can get into that as we go. But the poems that are written by Emily and read on screen in the show are the actual poems of Emily Dickinson.
Okay.
They didn't alter any of them.
Nice.
That's all it for the rundown.
You ready to dig into
Do you want to do the actors as we go? Do you want to talk about the main actor?
Well, now? You're going to have to, because as we talked about off air the other day, I can never remember who this woman is. You enjoy her. And I'm like, I don't know what she looks like.
Okay. Emily is played by Haley Steinfeld. And I feel like right now she's probably like my bias in the acting world.
Okay.
Reference your K-pop terminology.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've never seen her in a movie I didn't like, but that's not to say I've seen everything that she's in. But you somehow have never seen her in anything except for the Pitch Perfect movies, but she's less memorable in those because there's a bunch of girls in those movies. She's not like the main character.
Seen other things she's in, but that's where she was voice acting. So
really you've seen the voice acting stuff. Yeah. So I'll just run down. She's so the first thing I ever saw her in, but I didn't even remember she was in this, was True Grit. She was the girl in True Grit.
I did see that though, actually. Yeah, but she was a lot younger then.
Yeah. And then she's been in Pitch Perfect 2 and 3. And then in the Transformer Bumblebee movie, she's the main character.
Yeah, did not see that.
If you were ever going to like a Transformer movie, Sarah, Bumblebee would be the one I would recommend to you.
I am highly skeptical of this, but okay.
It's a little different. I mean, it still has like some, giant robot fights, but it's a little different than other Transformer movies.
Okay.
And then Hawkeye, which we're saving for Christmas time.
For Christmas time, yeah.
And then she was the voice of Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
The best Spider-Man movie.
And she was the voice of Vi in Arcane on Netflix.
Ooh, so such a good show. We have to talk about that at some point. That show is way better than it has any right to be. But yeah, I enjoy her voiceover work.
Yeah. Yeah. So all the things I've seen, I've liked.
Okay.
I don't really remember True Grit that much, but I think I liked it. Or at least I liked her in it. I don't know. I don't really remember. So yeah, that's the only reason I even watched this show, Sarah. Like, this is not a show that I would normally have watched. But I was like, I have an Apple TV Plus subscription for another month or like 3 weeks. And there's a show starring Haley Steinfeld that I've never watched. So here we go. And then it was really a show that I think Sarah should have watched, not me. But we'll see if that's true.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay, are you ready?
I am ready.
We're going to be talking about the first 2 episodes today.
Yes.
Episode 1 is called Because I Could Not Stop. But I believe the poem, I think every episode is
named after a poem.
At least a reference to the poem. I think the actual name of this poem is Because I Could Not Stop for Death.
Yeah.
Which the extended part of it will be read in the show. But how do we start off this show? The series, really. Yeah. There
is a brief description of, an overview of Emily Dickinson. That she was born in 1830 in Amherst, Massachusetts, lived her whole life in her father's house, mostly unpublished until after her death, and she had almost 2,000 poems, which were found hidden in a maid's trunk after her death. And that's our intro into Emily Dickinson.
Yeah. And the show will highlight a few times where her poems were actually published. I don't know how accurate, these were the actual, papers or whatever that they were published in. I don't know how accurate that was in terms of the show, but maybe it is. I'm not sure. Yeah. that intro was very helpful for me because I've definitely heard of Emily Dickinson, but could not have told you exactly who she was. But
And
it got me right on track.
They don't tell you exactly how old she is when this show takes place, but like I don't know, late teens, I feel, maybe early teens, given the old timiness of nonsense and trying to marry her off. But
I wanted to say 18. It would be my guess.
It is like on the eve of the Civil War, basically, which was like 1850s time.
That's a very big topic in the show.
Approximately then-ish.
Yeah. Okay. How we starting, Sarah? How does this show?
So yeah, after we get this description, we see who we assume is Emily, because again, I had never seen this actress.
It's
before.
Haley Steinfeld, so it is Emily.
Yeah, she wakes up in the middle of the night and she just like has to write. Like she digs a little scrap of paper out of her desk and just starts writing, and you get like this lovely little script on the screen just highlighting what she's writing, and that's like a theme that comes through a lot whenever she's writing or finishing a poem or whatever.
Yeah. I was wondering if that's like her actual handwriting.
Solid maybe.
I feel like it should be. I feel like this show would have put in the work to make it look like her handwriting. But yeah, she basically is like sitting at her desk. This is like the spot that she basically writes all her poems.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, this desk might be like actually famous. I like, you can go to this house as like a historical landmark and maybe see this desk. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, her house is definitely like a museum to her now.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they use that house to film this show.
Oh, probably not, because like whenever I've gone to visit like an old historical house, they're like, they rope you off where they're like, you cannot walk on the floors over here because we're preserving the old timiness or whatever.
Saw the movies come in and be like, here's a ton of money.
But sometimes, it's not structurally
I see what you're saying.
safe for having a bunch of people.
But this is supposed to be like the famous Emily Dickinson desk that she's writing at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure at least the way the show makes it seems, like the maid's trunk that has the 2,000 poems that she's going to write, I'm pretty sure it's just like the trunk that's at the foot of her bed. At least that's what the show makes it seem like at some point.
Yeah.
But so yeah, she's writing her poems. And then she hears a knock on the door, and it's her sister, Lavinia, aka Vinny. And she's like, you have to go fetch water. So it wasn't as much of the middle of the night as we thought it was, I guess.
More like early morning.
Yeah. But Emily's like very like, what do you mean? It's 4 a.m. But her mom has said like, oh no, she has to do it because Lavinia did it yesterday. And her brother Austin doesn't have to do it.
Yeah. She's like, why can't Austin do it? He's like, because he's a boy. And I was just like, this is bullshit. I am angry.
Yeah, and then Emily literally said, this is bullshit.
And then I was like, oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I think the historically accurate sexism bothers me less when characters in the show are allowed to acknowledge it, when they're just like, this is nonsense, and they're able to be sassy about it. That definitely helps smooth over the burning rage that builds up inside of me.
Yeah. I feel like in the show, like almost every character at some point you might be frustrated with. Like they'll say something, like they kind of like take turns having bad takes.
Yeah.
But because the show is from Emily's perspective and she's largely on the correct side of these moral arguments that are going to happen, the person is made to look like, okay, they just had a bad take or whatever.
Yeah.
They're the bad guy in this argument. So I thought that would be enough that you wouldn't be bothered by it too much.
We'll see as it unfolds.
Yeah. So Emily says, this is bullshit. And then they cut to the intro song art of the show.
So my next notes are exactly, oh my God, these opening credits. What's happening?
It's really fast. It's not really like a long opening credits. But yeah, it's like weird. I don't even know how to describe this artwork. And the music is very like
modern and loud.
And yeah.
It's like, the artwork's like, I don't know, kind of macabre drawings almost, and it's got like a little bit of a punk rock edge is the vibe I get from this, like
okay,
just with the loud music noise and the kind of, I don't know, it's not what I was expecting at all.
The artwork that goes with the intro music will be the same every time, unless maybe it's like a special episode, I forget. But the artwork is going to change every time based on like whatever the poem is for that episode or whatever
Yeah.
the theme is or whatever. Yeah. But it's still going to be that style that you see in this first episode. But we cut back to the show, and Emily is getting the water from the well.
Yes.
But she's like still basically writing her poem in her head, and we get like the script on the screen again as she's thinking.
Mm-hmm. And she's kind of sloshing this water around, like not trying too hard to not spill it.
Yeah, and she's like carrying it back to the house, and then we get like modern music again as she's walking it back to the house. And I forget the tone of the song, but the words are like, "Hear me, no one; sees me, no one," or something like that, right?
Yeah, like to really emphasize her outsiderness. Like no one really gets her; she doesn't belong here.
Yeah, and then she's gonna arrive in the kitchen where her mom and sister are cooking.
Okay, her mom turns around, and I had to pause it because I lost my absolute shit. Her mom is.
I told you this. I thought.
No, I don't think you told me this. Her mom
okay.
is Jane Karawaski, I think her name is. She's aka Jenna Maroney from 30 Rock. And I just saw her face and couldn't stop laughing.
Because, that's your association with her?
Yes. Well, that, and she's also in
Jacqueline in Unbreakable.
Kimmy Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, Unbreakable
Kimmy Smith.
I want to say it's Jane Krakowski.
That might be the way to say it. But like, she's such a like really good comedic actress, and like the characters I'm familiar with that she played are like a special kind of dumb and hilarious. And like she brings that energy here
to this show,
without she's not as dumb, but like that like energy still comes through, and I'm like, I don't think like this is the moment where I'm like, I am not prepared for whatever this show is. It is not anything I expected. What is happening?
I was so happy that you wanted this show blind. I thought you might have like had an idea of what it was, but you never watched it. But
no, it's just the only idea I had was there's just this like easeful old-timey girl in a field, which is the image that Apple TV Plus gives to you, and I'm like, man, this looks kind of like I'm gonna hate it. Well, I'll just ignore it.
Yeah, I had no idea what this show was really going to be when I turned it on either. And then even I thought Jane Krakowski's character in the show was like a super weird choice at first, but then eventually I was like, okay, like this character.
Yeah.
So this is Emily's mom, and she definitely has to taking the role of like, oh, she's like the
best housewife in all of Massachusetts.
Yeah, she's
or something
pushing
like that.
the like gender roles more than some of the other characters in the show. But because she's being played by Jane Krakowski, it's like so ridiculous how like it's like somehow funny in a way, the way she like pushes for like all these things that are terrible. Yeah. It's weird. Yes. So like instantly her mom is like scolding her for being late and spilling half the water on the way back from the well.
Yes. She calls her a useless girl.
Yeah, you're a useless girl. She just says that right to her face.
Yep.
Oh my god. But it somehow was funny. Even though it was terrible.
Emily's basically just like, why do I have to do all these bullshit chores? Like, we're rich, let's get a maid.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I would rather scrape the skin off my fingers than get a maid, because like that would dig at her pride as the best housewife. And it's just, and she like specifically says that she's raising her daughters to be perfect housewives too. And I was just like, oh god, no. Terrible.
But did you think it was funny though at this point?
It was funny.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I was not needing to turn the show off. Okay. But still, there's always going to be that undercurrent of me going, ugh.
Yes, yeah. And she's also going to tell Emily that, Emily has a man scheduled to come see her today.
Well, it would not be an old-timey period piece if not filled with suitors coming to take the dog.
Yeah, is this almost like a trope like thing? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't actually watch a ton of these. I'm not sure like what is like a meta joke and what isn't in some of this stuff. But Lavinia, her sister, is like, oh, that's so romantic.
Yeah. Just a guy is coming by. He did nothing.
Because Mrs. Dickinson actually doesn't let Lavinia see men. Doesn't have men come over to try to, because she's too good at housework, so she doesn't want her to leave the house. Whereas Emily is useless. So she's trying to get rid of her, basically.
So you think if like Emily really wanted to get out of getting married, which we find out she really does not want to get married, she could try being better at housework, I guess, and then maybe.
But then when's she gonna write her poems?
That's true. That's true.
And we find out that like the last time her mom brought a man over to see Emily like dropped a dead mouse in their lap.
Like she's a cat.
Like she's a cat, yeah. And then there's a line here that she says like, "Oh, I would rather be a cat than a woman." Did you hear that line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I can feel that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. So yeah, Emily does not want to get married. Lavinia's in on the idea, but she's not being allowed to get married. It's very nobody's getting what they want in this house right now.
Pretty much, yeah. Exactly that.
Yeah. Okay. Then we get to the suitor. Is that the right word?
Yes.
The suitor.
Yes, the suitor. And I was like, oh, at least he's not an old dude. Good job. Yeah. Because he's like a guy who's about Emily's age.
Yeah. Because I think they actually went to school together. Or they're basically the same age. They like hang out together as friends because this character's name is George, and he's like friends with Emily's brother. So they're in the
literary club together. Yeah.
So she like instantly goes from like hating the situation to acting like super casual about the whole situation. Like, oh, this isn't actually like a big deal. Like she doesn't even take George seriously as like a man. It almost seems yeah.
But she like comes in before she sees it's George. She comes in like a ghost, like with her hair over her face, like she's the girl from The Ring or something. Yeah. Just trying to like ruin this whole event, and then she's like, "Oh, it's just him, whatever."
Yeah, not putting forth any effort whatsoever. Yeah, and then Emily and George are actually gonna go talk outside because Emily wants to talk to George with her mother not there.
And he is like very into like, yeah, we should get married. Like he's not just there out of obligation or whatever. And she's just like, no, thank you.
Yeah, he's serious about her. And he actually knows about her poems and enjoys them. Like he seems to know Emily like in an unsuperficial way, right?
Yeah, and he's like really supportive of what she wants to do. So like she said she can't get married because like her purpose in life is to be a writer, and a husband would stop that. And it's like, well, if she were to get married, like he would not be a bad choice. But I mean,
she still doesn't want to.
Yeah, Emily doesn't want to. And I mean, spoiler, not spoiler, pretty sure historically wise, Emily's a lesbian. So like that's also another level.
You actually knew that going into this?
Yes.
Okay. I guess you didn't know necessarily that the show was going to highlight that.
I was actually waiting for the show to pull that like, oh, she was very good friends with that woman she wrote about all the time, instead of, like that always happens with historical shit, with like, such good roommates. But yeah. So there's many reasons she does not want to marry him, but she doesn't say all of them right now. But he asks her actually if there's someone else, and she's just like, yes. Death is her someone else.
Yeah, this is where the show gets a little weird. Yeah, they even have a little like cut to what I would describe as basically just Emily's imagination. Yeah, who would describe this? And it's basically like her in a red dress getting into what we're supposed to think is like Death's carriage.
Yeah, it's got like ghost horse that are attached to this like dark black, really fancy carriage. Yeah,
so she's like going on a date or like a casual ride with Death in his carriage, basically. Mm-hmm. That's like a thing she does in her own head sometimes, which is a little weird of a thing to grasp, but the show gets quirky sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And like, so are young women writers, like, of course she'd make up something fantastical like this. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, I this is where the show is definitely like indulging itself into.
Oh yeah.
Like they're taking this poem that this episode is about and entwining it into her imagination and how she could have come up with it. So
yeah, there's no actual like proof that she thought this way or whatever, but it's a good I think it's a good take on her the character in the show, at least.
Yeah.
But there is actually something she does want from George. Mm-hmm. Which is, he is the co-editor of the literary magazine at the college, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a university paper.
Yeah. And she wants him to publish her poem. And he's really pumped about it because, again, he's super supportive about it. But she doesn't want him to use her name because her dad would not approve. We've not met her dad yet. So at this point, I was like, oh, her dad's going to be the problem, I guess.
Yeah. But George is going to insist that she use her name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does finally give in to him.
He's finally just like, just do it. Let's just put my name in there. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then she comes back inside, and she's just gonna argue with her mom more, basically.
Yeah. Like, oh, you need to get married. Stop being ridiculous. Fight.
Yeah. And then her father comes home in the middle of the fight, and he's like, oh yeah, Emily doesn't have to get married if she doesn't want to.
And I was surprised. I was like, wait, you have set him up to be the bad guy. What has
happened? He seems
happened?
like a reasonable guy, right, sir?
Yeah.
Totally reasonable.
And like he's even like, her mom's trying to make her do chores now instead, and he's like, she doesn't want to do chores. Don't make her do it. Just give her a break. It's fine. Let her go write or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, again, not what I expected.
Yeah. And the lines I wrote down here were Emily was like, I don't want to do chores 24 hours a day. And then the mom is just like, what would you do instead? And this isn't like she's saying, oh, like, you're useless. What would you be doing today? She like, the mom literally
doesn't know.
She doesn't know what she would do if she didn't do chores all day.
Exactly.
You know, like, yeah.
Like, this is what you do. Like what else is there? Of course.
And Emily's just like, I don't know. Think. That's what her response is.
Yeah.
And then her mom says something to Mr. Dickinson, like, she will be the ruin of this family or something like that.
So dramatic.
And then we get some modern rap music as a transition to the next scene. Yeah. I really like the music in the show.
Oh yeah, me too. It's great.
Yeah. The show would be a lot less lighthearted if it had like old-timey music or whatever normal music is for this genre.
The whole vibe would be wrong.
Yeah. Because they even use like the dialogue in the show is a mix of like old-timey language and like modern language. So like people will say like what's up to each other.
Yeah.
And but then they'll also talk in like, you know, the old-timey stuff. And I love that part of the show as well. And then the next scene we get to meet Austin, Emily's brother. And they just like casually run into each other outside, and then out of nowhere, Austin's just like, oh, I've proposed to Sue.
And Emily's,
which is Emily's best friend.
That. Yeah.
Emily's best friend is Sue, and Austin had just proposed to her. And also, they show a quick transition, right, Sarah?
Yes, to Sue saying yes to the proposal and other things. Which is basically, he's going down on her, and that's the yes we get. Yeah.
Now, we don't see him actually ask her to marry him before this, but I guess it's supposed to be assumed that he said it during
I guess?
I don't know. Weird. It was a weird thing.
Yeah. It's definitely weird.
Yeah. But Emily is devastated by this news.
Oh, absolutely. She's like, you can't marry my best friend. And he's like, you can't give her a hard time. It's a bad time for her. Her sister died. It's just like so many things are happening all at once. Yeah, basically Sue's entire family is dead from typhus. Yeah, I love the exchange here because he's like, her sister Mary died, and Emily's like, but she was the healthy one. And he's like, I know, but she got typhus and died like all the others.
Like
and
all
it's
the
just
others,
like a silly way that they deliver this line.
Yeah.
It made me giggle. Maybe I shouldn't have.
Yeah, but basically Sue, like I literally think Sue has no family anymore at this point.
Yeah, she is alone. But like clearly Emily is having a big reaction to this, and it's because she's in love with Sue, like 100%. You thought that already? Oh yeah, when you saw this definitely. Scene. Okay. Yes. I thought there was just like a best friend angle, but I had no idea what I was getting into when I watched this. So. Okay, that's fair. You figured it out. Hey, my secret lesbian radar is always looking for secret lesbians. So you'll have to, when you watch, if you watch more of the show, you'll have to give me your opinion on what do you believe the sexual orientation of Emily is in the show. Actually, in the show. Okay. As the show is represented, because there's some, you know, they create future love triangles in the show that make things interesting. But yeah, it's unclear.
So I'm curious what you think.
I mean, I am also always open to bi characters.
That's basically what
great.
it is. Like, it's hard to say if this show is saying Emily's a lesbian or if she bisexual. It's hard. Hard. But yeah, they go back inside, and Emily's parents actually approve of Austin and Sue's marriage.
Yes, they are definitely on board until he says that there's a position waiting for him at a firm in Detroit, and they're gonna move there. At which point, nope. His dad is not cool about that. Just like, nope, you're going to stay here. You're going to join my firm. You're going to move in next door. Done. We've figured it out.
We'll buy the lot next door and build you a house. That's how rich they are.
Yep. This guy does not want anyone to leave his household.
But then in the middle of this conversation, a basket is going to be hovering outside of the window.
Yes. And Sue notices it, but everyone else is distracted with the arguing. But eventually we get the letter out, or Austin gets the letter out of the basket, and it is addressed to Sue. So of course he opens it immediately. And there's a smaller envelope inside which says, seriously, Austin, give it to Sue. Like, stop reading it or whatever, something along the lines of she knew he was going to open it and just give it to her. So he does give it to Sue, and it just says, meet me in the orchard.
Yes. And next, we're going to the orchard.
Yes.
And Emily and Sue are gonna have a bit of an argument here.
Yeah, Emily's still angry, big upset. Yeah.
Angry about the proposal.
Because when they were 14, they promised each other that they would never get married. They'd grow up and become great writers together.
But Sue basically explains Sue pretty much, because of the time period, needs to get married in order to survive. That's basically her logic, which is fair, I think. She says, I'll literally starve to death if I don't marry somebody right now.
Yeah, her entire family's dead. Her family didn't even have much money to begin with, and so she has nothing, and she needs to get married.
And then there's a little bit of, she kind of snips back at Emily a little bit, and Sue's like, I don't have a perfect life like you do, which Emily resents that comment immediately, which... There's gonna be another comment later that we can talk more about, but Emily does kind of ride the line of being spoiled and oppressed at the same time.
Oh yeah. Like, she is privileged in that her family is rich and her dad is a bit lax with a lot of rules, but ultimately she is still a prisoner of the system and what is expected of women and what is allowed. So she's got a foot on both sides of those lines.
Yeah. So to Sue, Emily has a perfect life, but to Emily, she's not being allowed to do what she wants to do, even though she can have any objects she wants, basically. But yeah. And then what happens in this scene, Sarah?
Kissing happens. It's great. Well, Emily wants Sue to promise that she won't move to Michigan and that she will always love her more than she loves Austin. And she says she doesn't really have a say in the first, but she doesn't think there's going to be a problem with the second one. And then they kiss. And I was like, yes, good job, show, acknowledging it.
And then it starts to rain.
Yes.
Instantly.
Kissing in the rain is automatically more romantic.
I guess I didn't laugh, but it's almost like a comical way that it instantly starts raining when they kiss. Yeah.
Very in the after party in a news retelling of his evening.
Yeah. And then the next scene we get
Sue's sister's funeral. It is a big tonal change.
Yes. And there's a weird moment in this where Emily is trying to mouth to Sue I love you, but then Sue just stares her down. What did you think of this?
I think she was just like, bitch, I'm a little busy right now, and also somebody might see you. Oh,
that's what you took it as? Okay. Yeah, I didn't know what to think. Sue is a weird character to me in the show. Not so much in these first two episodes, but yeah, I don't find her particularly likable.
Oh, okay.
But you'll have to let me know what you think if you watch more.
I can imagine that her character is going to be a lot of oscillating between what she wants and what she thinks she needs to do, and it'll be frustrating to Emily and the viewer.
Yes, but yeah, it gets weirder than that, I think. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Then after the funeral, we're gonna see Austin and George. They're gonna be playing badminton,
like bros do.
Yeah,
in old timiness, I guess.
And as somebody that plays badminton, though, I must say that these two guys really suck at badminton. they're using old-timey gear, but like they're like making mistakes in the middle of their conversation. Like they didn't even attempt to make them look good at what they were doing. And then here's a character moment for Austin where they're talking about Emily, and George's like, she's a genius. And then Austin's like, I'm sick of people saying that about her.
Oh, yeah. He gets so prissy about it. It's ridiculous. He's just like,
yeah.
So jealous.
So there's some kind of beef between Austin.
Yeah. Although, like, when they're together in scenes, they do seem to be getting along for the most part.
Yeah.
There's just, I don't know, there's some underlying tension there.
Austin is a big example of a character that will seem extremely reasonable at times and extremely unreasonable at times.
Oh, he does say some bullshit here where, like, I think George asks him about Sue and, like, why her or whatever. And he's like, well, because she was the only girl that didn't want me. And I'm like, oh, that's terrible reason to be with someone. Okay.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm not a big Austin fan. I don't know that I ever will be. Maybe I'm not supposed to be.
You're going to be up and down a lot of characters in the show, I think. So.
Okay.
But Austin's going to take Sue, or Emily and Sue are going to come over, and then Austin and Sue are going to leave. And then Emily and George are going to talk again. And George tells Emily that her poem will be published in a week.
Yay! It's very exciting.
In the system, yeah. Very exciting.
Already went to print, yeah.
But I think Emily immediately goes to, like, worry mode, actually, right?
Yeah. Because as, like, brave and carefree as she seems a lot of the time in terms of, like, doing what the rules say to, like, she is very, very concerned about what her father's going to say about this.
And George is, again, very supportive.
Yes.
What do you think of George?
I like George. If Emily was into dudes, he's an okay dude.
Okay.
So far.
George seems nice, right?
Okay. Yeah. Has not given us any absolute dipshit opinions yet about women's places or whatever. So
yeah, he hasn't. Yeah.
I'll give him time to totally fuck this up and say some shit he shouldn't have, but for now, he seems okay.
If you ever finish this show, I want to know who you still like at the end of the show. And then we're going to get a super sick montage of all the women making dinner.
Yep, that happens.
As they do.
As they do.
Because it's dinner time. It's family dinner time. And everybody... Is Sue at this dinner?
Sue is at the dinner.
Sue is at this dinner too. So it's all the characters we've met so far, basically. Are at the dinner table.
Except for George.
Oh, except for George, yeah. He's not part of the family. Yet.
As much as he wants to be. He's not.
And Emily's father has an announcement. He's decided he's going to run for Congress.
Yes. And then they start talking about his platform a little bit. And here's where I start to go south on her dad.
Yeah, here we go.
Because somebody asks him if he's an abolitionist. And he's like, well, I think slavery's wrong, but it's not something worth going to war over. And I'm like, okay, so he's shitty. Got it. Thank you, show, for telling me what I need to think about this man. Yeah,
that is a big, like, distinction between a lot of the characters in the show, like whether or not they think war is necessary. This is a conversation that's going to come up more than once in the show.
Yeah.
But this prompts Emily to say...
Oh, not quite. Austin has an announcement too.
Oh, fuck that announcement. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Well, just that Austin and Sue are going to stay in Amherst, and he's going to do the plan his father said that he should do. So...
Oh, no. That actually is after what I said, I think.
No, Emily's announcement is last.
Oh, I'm not talking about her announcement.
Oh, what did she say? Sorry.
I think this is a big line to talk about. During the conversation about slavery and going to war or not, Emily's chimes in and says, sometimes I feel like a slave.
Oh, I forgot about this. Oof.
And then
big oof.
Her mom replies as, you are a spoiled girl from Amherst, far from a slave. What was your reaction to this interaction, Sarah?
Big oof.
Big oof?
I mean, it is hard, especially like when you have the modern music and modern sensibilities going on for some rich white girl to say, oh, I'm basically a slave. It just automatically hits like, oh, nope, that's not the opinion to have. But like, it is true that in ye olde times, like in some ways she is like, she doesn't get to choose what to do. She's got to, work in the house or whatever. But still not as bad as slavery. Like, she gets to sleep in a comfy bed and like nobody's abusing her and she's not gonna get murdered and like nobody's stolen her family or kids away or what, like, oof, just big oof.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What Emily says is super insensitive, but they're both both Emily and her mom are like both right and wrong at the same time.
Yeah.
Where like Emily is like being forced to do things she doesn't want to do, but in reality, like she's not in danger of, like dying, or she's nowhere near the terribleness of actual slavery that's going on in the country.
Yes.
But also her mom thinks she's spoiled because she gets everything she wants, but her mom doesn't really understand that she's not being allowed to do what she wants.
Yeah.
So they're both right and both wrong.
Yeah. And the way she says it is just like such a teenager thing to say. Like it feels very authentic to like a dissatisfied teenager, what they would blurt out. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was an important line. It gets them, it quickly illustrates in episode 1, like the mindset of these two characters, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Austin and Sue.
Yes, they have their announcement. They're not going to leave.
They're going to remain part of the show. And
Emily's super pumped. Yeah.
And then Emily decides that since everybody's doing such big announcements and everybody's so happy, this should be a great time for her to do her announcement, Sarah.
Yeah. And so she's like, so I have a poem that's going to be published, and there is just silence and tension in the room.
Oh God.
Her dad's like, I don't think I heard you correctly. And she has to repeat it. And then he's like, you know that I do not approve of a woman building herself a literary reputation.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a very specific line.
Scandalous behavior, Sarah.
Yes.
You'll ruin the good name of Dickinson.
Yep. What a dick.
And we even find out that Emily's dad has written an essay about the woman's place in society. Mm-hmm. I think we get the actual title later of this. Yeah, it's very simple. It's something like that. Yeah.
It's oof. But yeah, so yeah, this is where the feeling starts bubbling up, where I'm like, am I gonna be able to make it through? I think the rest of the show balances itself out where I can, but I don't know. He goes on a big long rant about like how the Dickinsons have been in Amherst for like 200 years and the legacy is so important. But then his dad was like a drunk and a debtor, and he had to clean up their reputation again. And he didn't do that just for her to ruin it again. It's like, but this is, I hate this. I just hate it so much. And I get it. This is how people felt at the time because people were terrible. But it's a bummer.
Because women publishing words is the equivalent of being a drunk man.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We all know that. We all know that.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, Emily's devastated. This is big sad feels for both Emily and the viewer, I think, right here.
Yeah.
I think anybody could identify with this moment of like thinking like something good has really happened and you're really excited about it, and then you like talk to somebody about it and it just goes the exact opposite way that you were expecting.
They just shit all over your dream.
Yeah, you go from like a super high to like the super low instantly. Devastating.
But so for her punishment, she has to clean up the dining room and the kitchen by herself. But we see her like run off to her fantasy of Death taking her away on a carriage ride. And we actually get to see Death this time, and he's a super cool tattooed dude with a cane. Is this somebody?
This is Wiz Khalifa.
I don't know who that is, but okay.
Is a music person.
That makes sense. Okay.
I'm also not familiar with specifically what songs Wiz Khalifa has done, but I'm sure I've heard him. Heard his stuff before.
Maybe you even heard some of his stuff in the show.
Maybe.
But yeah, so they have a nice long talk.
In Death's carriage.
Yes.
What do you think about this scene and this conversation, Sarah?
I think it's great. I love that he says the thing that I was thinking the whole time, which is like, in 200 years, she's the only Dickinson anybody's going to give a shit about, so it really doesn't matter what her dad has to say.
Yeah.
And he does basically give her the pep talk of like, doesn't matter if you're published now or not, like, you're going to be infamous later, like, after your death, you're going to be super famous. This is not all for nothing.
Yeah. And then he also, like, foreshadows, like, the impending war in the country. But it's a little weird, like, to think about, okay, what am I watching in this moment, right? Because it's like, it's Emily's thoughts in her head, I guess.
Yeah, it's like her fantasy that she's retreating into while she's cleaning, basically.
But at the same time, she's like accurately predicting the future, like with her own poems and the war.
Well, at least with the war, like everybody knows that there's something that like it might happen. So that makes sense.
And I guess she could be telling herself like, oh, my poems are going to be big 200 years from now or something like, I don't know. It's a little weird, but
it's also just the show being
it's a little bit just like a meta moment of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you like this artsy kind of visualization of internal thoughts?
Absolutely. Cool. I think it's fun. And like, I don't know, it makes sense to me in that like when I was a teenager and upset and had to like do some chores or whatever, there'd be like some story I had written in my head that I'd just pay attention to trying to get through the boring chores or like that I could relate to. That makes sense to me.
Oh, damn. You smart.
Never did that? Okay.
Not the way you describe it. I mean, I would think about other stuff, but I don't think I'd be making up stories now.
No? Okay.
I'm not that creative, I guess.
Okay. I didn't say they were good. Just, something to keep my mind busy.
Even to try. I never even thought of it.
Okay.
But yeah, Emily's forced to stay up late cleaning the house.
Yes.
But then Mother's like, oh, have to go to bed now because there's another man coming to see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I forget what the job, did you write down what the job was of this guy?
I think it was a pig farmer.
And then Emily just like sarcastically was like, sexy.
Yeah.
These are the moments I like in the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But before Emily is able to fall asleep, her father comes in.
This scene is so weird.
It is so weird.
It is so weird.
Basically, the scene is now for some reason her father is crying and Emily has to comfort him.
Basically, he says like he's just afraid of losing her and he wants her to promise that she won't get married and move away. And like he just crawls into her bed and starts crying. And I'm like, I don't like this. This gives me bad vibes.
Yeah, this is weird. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe don't yell at her for dumb reasons if you want to stay.
Yep. Like if she's not going to get married and move away, like what is she supposed to do in your house all the time? Just like do the chores and serve you? That sucks. Like, first of all, like it's super selfish to be like, don't ever leave me. I'm your parent. You must stay forever. Even though she does not want to get married. But then like to also be like, in addition to that, you cannot follow any of your passions. Like it just sucks. Yeah. It's manipulative and gross. I don't like her dad anymore at all.
But this conversation actually ends on a good note for Emily, Sarah.
That's true. She makes him promise that they'll get a maid. If she's going to not get married and live in this house forever, then they have to get a maid. And he's like, okay, fine.
Yes. Very excited about the maid. And then I think even now, before she goes to bed, she gets up and she goes to her desk and she writes at least the first verse of the poem, Because I Could Not Stop for Death. So, Sarah, you want to read the first verse of the poem for completion's sake?
Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality.
And then Emily says, nailed it.
That was great. I love it when she does that.
And then we get more modern pop music, and that's the end of episode 1. That was fun.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Sarah?
Yeah, at this point I'm like, okay, I'm in. She's sassy about the situation she's in. Like, there is pushback against this historically accurate sexism. They leaned into the she likes ladies. I'm ready to go. Like, you had told me that we needed to watch 2 episodes because you didn't think I'd like things until episode 2. And at this point, I wanted to message you, like, really, honestly, when they started kissing, I wanted to message you and be like, why did you think I needed episode 2? This is fun.
Well,
like, this is good.
Episode 2 is going to get a little spicier, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes,
and I didn't actually remember if they kissed in episode 1.
Okay, fair enough.
I knew episode 2 was when things got nice. Extra nice.
Yes, they do.
So do we even need to do episode 2? Are we done?
I mean,
you still want to talk about it?
2? Yeah, I mean, I like.
Okay.
I wrote the notes already. I mean, come on.
All right, let's talk about episode 2.
Okay.
Episode 2. I believe the title and the poem are the same this time. I have never seen volcanoes.
Mm-hmm. It seems innocent enough at the start of this episode.
But the episode actually opens with a different poem. I don't know what that poem is, but I was actually, I had to like pause and like be like, because I looked up the poem and I was like, this is not the words. It caught me off guard. So I think there's only so many episodes in the show, and she wrote 2,000 poems. So
yeah,
some episodes
so
they're gonna have
some extra poems in
lines from other poems. Yeah. So I did not write down what this opening poem was, but I'm sure it was great because it turns out she's actually reciting the poem to Sue, and Sue is sleeping in the bed with Emily.
This is so lovely. The sun is just like coming up in the morning and they're waking up together and it's cute.
Yeah. They're sleeping in the same bed because Sue and Austin aren't married yet, and that would be blasphemous.
Mm-hmm. But what they don't know is, well, it hasn't happened yet, but it's fine. So yeah, Emily is still at this point, they're talking a bit and she's pissed that she's getting married to Austin, but she even says that she wishes she could marry Sue.
She wishes she could be Sue's husband, yeah.
Yeah. And Sue says that Emily would be a terrible husband because
yes.
She has no practical skills and she's too small to fend off enemy.
Yes. But you said it in a joking way.
Like, decent qualifications.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And Emily's going to say, but I bet I'd look good in a suit. And also Emily says that she couldn't sleep next to Sue. Sue says why, and she describes it as, I don't know. There was this rumbling. What is she talking about there?
Apparently Sue snores.
Oh, okay.
Or at least that's what Sue said.
But Austin's gonna come in and interrupt their conversation.
He's very surprised at their ability to sleep, to share this small bed. And I'm like,
yeah,
it's not surprising at all.
Yeah, we can tell right away, like, Austin is very clueless to the situation that is happening and that he is in the middle of.
Yes.
So Austin does not know right now.
Or ever, maybe, about anything. I don't know that he's super aware of the world and is smart, but whatever.
It's a comedy drama, Sarah, so I think he's going to find out.
Well, that's true.
Austin asks Emily, like, hey, shouldn't you be helping Mother in the kitchen? And Emily's like, nope, that's why we got a maid. and then we cut to the kitchen where Mrs. Dickinson is, like, very upset about the new maid. The new maid's name is Maggie.
Yes, she is Irish, and she's like, apparently it's a tradition to burn the first loaf or whatever, and just Mrs. Dickinson is just like, why would you do this? What is going on? We have to start over and make new bread.
Wait, did she actually burn it on purpose?
Yeah, she said it's like a tradition or something.
Oh, I thought she burned it, and then that was her way of like playing it off. Yeah, like she was maybe. Yeah, you always burn the first loaf. No biggie. Maggie's very funny.
Yeah, Maggie's great. And she and Emily have something in common because Maggie also writes poems, but mostly limericks, which is, I don't know, it's funny to me.
And Maggie says, I've only killed 4 husbands so far. In response to, like, Miss Dickinson says something, like, kind of mean to her. And then she's like, I've only killed 4 husbands, so I can't be all that bad. Something like that.
I like Maggie.
But Mrs. Dickinson is still insisting that Emily should be doing chores. And Emily was like, well, I had no plans to be doing anything anymore now that we have a maid, basically.
And, like, Mrs. Dickinson is, like, still trying to do everything. And Maggie's just like, stop it. It's my job. Yeah. Like, calm down, go, relax. And she just cannot.
Yeah, Mrs. Dickinson can't. She can't do nothing. She can't. And then we're going to cut to Austin and Mr. Dickinson having a discussion about politics.
Yes.
Basically, this is just like, talking about pending war, right, Sarah? It wasn't like that important.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're establishing the time period. It's right before the Civil War.
And mostly it is to get a newspaper in play because they're looking at a newspaper. And eventually when Emily comes in, she picks it up and sees that there's a lecture from a geologist who has a lab on top of a volcano.
Mount Vesuvius.
The volcano. She wants to go to see this lecture.
Yeah.
How does her dad feel about that, Jake?
Yeah, he's like, no. And he's like, but Austin, you should totally go to the lecture.
And Austin's like, ugh, why would I
Austin's
do that?
Like, I'm not in school anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is this like dynamic of like
he has things Emily wants, but he will not appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks.
And yeah, this is like Emily's like, well, the first excuse why she can't go is like, oh, because it's for students of the college. And she's like, well, why can't I go to college? And he's like, you read my essay about the proper place of women. He brings up his essay again, and I'm just like,
yes. Professors are hired to teach students at the college, not girls from town. That's the line.
Yep. Oh, and then Austin says some other bullshit at some point about like how girls can't go to school because it would be too distracting for the boys. I'm like, well, then maybe the boys should stay the fuck at home. Oh, this is where I got a little angry again, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think the show highlights in a very like, isn't this conversation ridiculous kind of way? Like,
yes, that does make it easier.
And then Emily complains about how her education at this point is basically she has to steal random bits of knowledge while no one is looking.
That is accurate. Mm-hmm.
And then there's some scene next. I just wrote Sarah, what happens next in my notes. So Sarah,
what happens next? Oof, is Mr. and Mrs. Dickinson are kind of arguing because Mrs. Dickinson is really hurt that he got a maid because it must mean that she's not good at her job. And he's just like unwilling to tell her the reason he got one is because he promised a maid to Emily so she wouldn't get married. So he's like trying to talk around it the whole time, and she's just like really like actually hurt about it. Like she thinks there's something wrong with her and that she's not doing a good enough job, and like this is where she's placed all the value in her life. So like she's legitimately feeling bad about this maid.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Dickinson have a weird dynamic with each other, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's probably true of a lot of husband and wives in this time period where you're basically just like marrying women is like a trade, basically.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It's not like she's a real person. He doesn't have to worry about how she feels. Ugh, gross.
And then we get a scene in town at the dress shop, I guess this is.
Yeah, Emily, Sue, and Lavinia are at a dress shop, and Lavinia wants something that makes her look fertile.
Yeah.
Gross.
Do you like Lavinia?
Lavinia's okay, but she is a product of her time, and I wish she would be smarter.
Okay.
And be more like Emily.
I think you're gonna like Lavinia.
Okay.
The more you watch.
Okay.
It's reestablishing that she actually really wants to do all the stuff that like Emily's being allowed to do, but she's not allowed to do it, basically, is the idea.
No one in this house is happy.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Mr. Dickinson is.
Well, actually, he's not. He's furious about all the women
that's true. Trying
to ruin the name of Dickinson.
No one's happy. No one is actually. Austin is happy when no one's making him go to school, I guess, probably. But that's it.
Well, he has something that's not going to make him happy eventually. Well, yeah. Anything else from the dress shop?
Basically, just Emily lets drop to this dressmaker lady that Sue and Austin are going to get married, and so there's talk of, oh, will she make the wedding dress? And Sue has to emphasize that, like, I am poor. I could not afford you. So, like, just reiterating that she's real destitute.
Yeah. The dressmaker, the owner of the shop, is also the first, I think it's the first black person that's in the show.
Other than Death, who, I don't know, is
Death,
a person, not a person.
It's
more like personification of a...
Yeah, not a real person in the show. But there's also a, what do they call it? A handsman or a stable man? What do you call
okay, yeah, a stable boy?
Stable boy, but it's a man.
Person?
Yeah.
Adult stable boy. Yeah.
They say the name for it. I'm blanking on the name for it. But they also have a black man that works for the Dickinson household as well.
Yeah, at first when this whole show had this modern take, I was like, well, maybe they'll do some colorblind casting. But then given that the Civil War is the backdrop of much of it, it doesn't really work, I guess.
Yeah, the black characters become bigger characters in the show later on.
Okay.
They have good moments, I want to say.
Okay, good.
Oh, but back in the other scene, when Austin was saying stuff about, women will be too distracting at school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Emily was able to get Sue out of her plans with Austin by saying they had plans together, which was to go through some widow that they know they're going to go through like her husband's clothes together because she needed
couldn't
help
bear
after
to
her
do
husband
it.
died.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're going to go to that scene now.
Yeah, and it's just Emily and Sue going through a bunch of man's clothes. And so, of course, they're still talking about the volcano expert because there's a painting or drawing of a volcano on the wall.
Oh, really? In the
Like
scene
there's
there
a
is?
little
Oh, okay.
framed art piece of maybe it's
Oh,
just a
okay.
mountain, but she gets all wistful and is like, "Oh, I want to go see the thing. This is bullshit." And so yeah, Emily gets the idea that they could just dress up like men and go to the lecture and it would be fine.
Yeah.
And this is great because it leads to a great montage of them just like dressing up and playing together. And like there's that Lizzo song that's all the boys, the itty bitty boys and the Mississippi boys and the I don't know all the lyrics, but you know the song about all the boys.
The song is called Boys. I'm actually not familiar with the song,
one.
but I saw the name of it in the subtitles, which was the fun for the montage.
It is a good song to montage too.
There's also a line in this scene that's Emily says, maybe they're scared if they teach us how the world works, we'll figure out how to take over.
Yeah, that was good.
But they get dressed up, fully dressed in all the appropriate time period men's clothing.
One of them has a fake mustache drawn on.
It's like a pencil mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they don't have markers, right? So it's
it is
maybe
not
it's
convincing.
ink. I don't know. Yeah, it's not very good. They both look at each other and say, "We look ridiculous." And then they say,
but they say like you'd have to be pretty stupid to fall for this, and they're like, "But good thing that boys are stupid."
Yeah, I wrote they have pencil mustaches. Both of them are wearing top hats, which I guess isn't that weird, but I feel like nobody else when they get to the school is wearing top hats.
Like people are wearing top hats outside, but inside the lecture, everyone has taken their hats off because they're polite, so that doesn't really help things.
And then Emily has chosen to have a cane as well, which I feel like she's going to be the only student at the school that has a cane.
I don't know. I think it was a good choice. It's a fun prop and also a weapon if you need it to.
But if you're trying not to stand out, I feel like not the choice.
I guess.
So yes, I agree. They look ridiculous. And then they're going to go to school. Exciting. Here we go.
Yeah. And outside of the school, the boys are chasing each other around and kind of acting a little dumb. So nobody notices them, except for George, because he knows them.
Until they ran into somebody they know.
Yeah.
And George instantly recognizes Emily. Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did you write down? Emily, for 5 seconds, tries to act like, oh, it's not her.
Oh, yeah.
Did you write down
fake names?
Did you write down the fake names? Okay.
No.
Her fake name was Lysander Periwinkle or Lysander Periwinkle, and then Sue's fake name was Sir Tybalt Butterfly.
Nailed it.
And she said it in such an unconvincing way too. Like she paused and had to think.
Yeah, but it's okay because George is cool.
Yeah, he can keep the secret. And then this is like the language moment that I like in the show where he's like saying goodbye to them. And like good luck for the lecture or whatever, and he's like, all right, I'll see you later, you weird beautiful boy. It's like a joke to Emily, but then some other dude at the school like overhears what he said because he said it kind of loud for some reason, and then George turns around and sees his face and he's like, oh, what's up, you weird beautiful boy.
Smooth George.
I just like that he said what's up. That's the
yeah, it was good. Yeah, there are all these weird moments of just like modern language that sometimes you like forget because you get involved in the show, but then they just stick out sometimes and it's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, they're going to attend the lecture.
This lecture is so sexual.
Yeah.
For no reason.
The professor for this lecture is incredible.
Oh, he's got his leg up on like a chair or something, and he's talking about all this pent up pressure below the surface, and like he's like his voice is just such a weird, creepy, pervy man tone the whole time.
He's like doing it intentionally, and this character, he looks like Albert Einstein, right? I think they actually say his actual name. I don't know if the guy. Like the name they give is an actual like famous professor or scientist. I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure, but to me he looked like Albert Einstein. Yeah, so this is a weird scene.
Yeah, he just keeps going on and on about all the below the surface pressure and the people never saw it coming and it builds up and then
He starts talking about the rumbling and the building, and then Emily grabs Sue's hand. They're on like the balcony, I guess, viewing of
Yeah.
this lecture hall, and they're like right on the banister. She grabs Sue's hand, and then
And some
some.
guy sees.
Yeah, some guy sees. That's funny. He has like a weird like facial reaction
He's like,
to them.
why are these men holding hands?
Yeah, and then the professor's like, he's still talking about the rumbling in the building, and then he's like, and out of nowhere a sleeping mountain becomes and then Emily just shouts out, a fiery beast.
She gets so overwhelmed and she just like takes her hat off and shouts real loud, and everybody's suddenly like, oh, those are girls.
Yeah,
And they're pointing and shouting at them and they have to run away. But like as a side note, like I think George is involved in this lecture, and there is a baking soda volcano. Like I guess at some point that was new and cool, but it just
it
stuck with
wasn't
me. Like
actually
this
baking
is
soda
weird.
though. It
Well,
was.
yeah, but it's like the equivalent of that. Like they made a
Oh,
clay
oh, you're
volcano
right. Yeah,
where you like mix some chemicals in the top and it's gonna explode or whatever. And I was just like, I guess this is so silly.
yeah,
But that intermixed with the deeply sexual tone of everything.
yeah. Basically, Emily's gonna have big feelings because of
Oh,
the
yeah.
way. I don't. Do you think the professor really gave the lecture like this, or this is just Emily's perspective of how the professor
Oh,
was giving the
that's an
lecture?
excellent question. Um,
We'll never know.
we'll never know. Probably Emily, but I'd like to think both because, like, sure, why not? That was a really
Yeah,
convincing performance from this guy.
yeah. So the guy that originally saw them holding hands is like, "Hey, those are girls," and then I love that this one guy down in the lower levels. He turns around and he's just like, "Girls, get them out of here!" Like the way he said it to me was so funny. And then the creepy professor. And then the creepy
He's just like,
professor's
let
just
them
like, "Ooh,
watch.
let them see it."
Oh,
So they actually didn't stick around for the volcano explosion.
yeah.
Um,
It's because Emily had her own explosion. She could not control herself.
but all they do is like run out into the hallway, and then they have a good laugh, and
Yes.
they had a very fun time together. Emily's on another high right now,
Mm-hmm.
feeling good about herself. So you know what's happening next.
Yeah.
Emily's
she
gonna
gets
come home.
and apparently someone had told her dad that she was at the lecture. So she gets yelled at a lot.
Yes.
And given the essay he wrote about the proper place of women to read again, and he threatens to fire the maid.
Yes. The essay is literally just called "On the Proper Place of Women."
Gross.
Yeah, I just wrote at this point in my notes. I just wrote classic Mr. Dickinson stuff, and like we don't. Or you get the idea of this character right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be, the worst all the time, but he's probably the most consistently bad take person in the show. So yeah, he's going to go back to her room.
Yeah, and instead of reading this essay, she's about to use it to write some poetry instead.
Yeah, she crumbles it up and then she decides, you know what, I'm going to use this to write a poem on. And she starts writing a poem. But then her mother comes in and interrupts her.
Oh, she's ready for a fight.
The mother is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's just like, basically, my big quote from her from this is, in this house, what matters is what your father wants.
Yeah.
Again, I say
and
gross.
she needs to apologize, basically.
Because he's the provider, and he bought that desk and that paper you're wearing. Oh, God.
Yeah. This is a tough spot, because it's like, I'm just like imagining, if you were Emily and you had to live in this time period. Because what's going to happen is she's actually going to kind of agree with her mother or take her mother's words to heart after this.
Yes.
And she's going to go like ask Maggie to teach her how to make bread. And then she's going to like make bread for her father.
Yeah, it's like a peace offering.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know if she takes these words to heart in a like, well, if I keep him happy enough, I can do what I want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or if it's really like, because she's not coming around to the general household mindset at all. I think she's just like trying to make it so she, gets him off her case.
Yeah. And honestly, like with how difficult it would be
Oh yeah.
In this time period, like this is probably what I would do too.
This is the move that
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
I probably wouldn't even have the guts to like complain as much as Emily is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the show. I don't know. How did you feel about it? Like her kind of caving to her parents here.
I mean, she's doing what she has to do to get by. Yeah. Right? Like she's not giving into the idea of getting married and all this shit. She's not saying, oh, this is my place. She's saying, this is what I have to do to like survive in a way that works.
Yeah. I wrote she needs her father to survive, similar like Sue needs a husband to survive. So it's like both Emily and Sue are like doing what they have to do to survive, even though like they really just want to be together with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that sucks. But the show gets real sometimes, even though it's very funny at times. I legitimately laugh out loud to the show like probably once an episode.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's that kind of funny to me, not just like consistently entertaining kind of funny. Like it just has a moment that comes out of nowhere. You're just laugh out loud. Yeah,
like the really sexual volcano lecture. Yeah, yeah. Laughing out loud.
Yeah. I forget what made me laugh out loud. I think it was when the professor said, let them see it or something that made me laugh so hard.
Yeah. That's the part that makes me think that maybe it wasn't all in Emily's.
Yeah. I don't even think she was in the room at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Let them see it. So yeah, she makes the peace offering to her father, and then we'll go to Emily and Sue lying in bed together.
This time at night.
At night, yeah. Do you want to describe what happens in this scene, Sarah?
Oh, yeah, I do. Well, first, Sue says she's going to miss sleeping in the same bed with her, but Emily cannot stop thinking about Pompeii, and then the tension rises.
Yeah, Pompeii, a city frozen in time, and she says sometimes she feels like she is frozen and trapped. That's why she's thinking about Pompeii. Pompeii is one of the settlements / cities that got destroyed by Mount Vesuvius, right, Sarah?
Yeah, it's the one that's like everybody like got buried instantaneously, so there's like a really interesting archaeological site.
Gotcha, okay.
When they dug it all up.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. I mean, I don't have detailed great notes on this because I just wrote, they're gonna bone.
Okay, you really just jumped into it.
But yeah, I mean, we're back to talking about volcanoes and that building tension. And Sue reaches into Emily's pants is basically what happens. And they have a good time.
Is this considered boning?
I mean, sure, whatever.
Okay.
They have a kind of sex.
Gotcha. Yeah, she's talking about the volcanoes. I'll give you the slow build to this. Emily was talking about volcanoes, and then Sue's like, I think I know what a volcano feels like. And Emily's like, show me.
And she does.
And then what Sarah said, yeah. And then I think the poem of the episode is recited while Emily is getting pleasured, right?
Yes.
Do you want to read the two verses?
Send me this volcano poem and I will read it. I will read it.
All right. Here's Sarah with the first two verses of I Have Never Seen Volcanoes.
I have never seen volcanoes, but when travelers tell how those old phlegmatic mountains, usually so still, bear within appalling ordnance, fire and smoke and gun, taking villages for breakfast and appalling men.
Yep.
I want my hobbies to just be appalling men. Like that sounds great.
And then there's a montage during this of Sue thinking, of Emily thinking about Sue and volcanoes, and Sue and volcanoes, and Sue and volcanoes.
You know, all that pressure building up before it explodes and appalls the men.
And then, it goes from there, right, sir?
Yup.
And then the episode ends, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to end an episode.
Yeah. All right. Where are you now, Sarah?
I enjoy
more or
this
less
show
in
so much.
Okay,
Yes. I'm so in on this show. Good job. I'm gonna watch all of it.
Yeah, I blasted through this show pretty good.
I'm gonna download all the episodes and watch it on the plane. It's gonna be
there.
good.
You go. That's why I wanted to actually get this one in before you left. I was thinking you would watch it on your trip. Okay.
Oh wait, but I can't. Can I watch ye old-timey ladies finger each other on a plane next to some strangers. I don't know.
Like we've discussed in shows in the past, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Early episodes, you do the, the more risque stuff, get people in, and then you tone it back a little bit.
Less fingering. Okay, so plane safe. So if I get any stink eyes on this plane, it's your fault. Got it.
Also, if you're going to have headphones in, I think you're going to be all right.
I'm mostly just worried about the person right next to me.
Okay. Okay. Can I tell you what episode 3 is about?
Yes. Yes, okay. You can.
Episode 3, I think this episode was the one that was like, I was like, okay, this show's going to get fun. Or at least be like fun at times.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Emily's parents have to leave the house because of, he's running for Congress or something. So they have to like go on a journey.
Okay.
So Emily and her sister and brother decide to throw a party at the house. And then you get to meet all of Emily and Lavinia and Austin's friends from town who are very funny and like kind of have like the meta moments of the show and stuff. I think you're going to like their friends.
Is it a ye old-timey rager?
Yeah, but with like modern music. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on like every aspect of the show whenever you get to it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the shit out of this show.
Okay.
I'm in.
I did it.
Yeah.
That's my goal. Usually my goal is to actually get a new show for you to watch.
Yeah, that's not always my goal. Sorry, not sorry.
Even with Food Wars, I thought there was I knew it was low chance, but I still thought there was a chance that you'd be like, this is so ridiculous that I
have to watch all of
it. At least I enjoyed it and I would watch more.
Okay. Well, you tried. But this time you nailed it. This was great.
Okay. I thought this was gonna be good, but I was concerned about the cringe moments of
historically accurate sexism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Feels good. A win today.
Yeah, good job.
Did you have enough time to pick out a show for the next time?
No, but I had worked ahead previously, which is to say I was waffling back and forth on what I was going to pick for a previous week, and I have one waiting. So we're going to watch Abbott Elementary. Have you heard of this show?
Is it Apple TV Plus?
No, it is. Well, I'm watching it on Hulu, so it's on something.
Seen ads for this?
Yeah, the second season just started. So we're going to watch, I think, the first 2 episodes of the first season. It's basically like if The Office or Parks and Rec were about an inner city school in Philadelphia.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I've seen ads for this. Comedy.
Yeah.
Sitcom.
It is funny. It is not a slow build. It takes place in Philly. There's so many reasons you might like part of it.
Hulu calls it adding to my stuff. I like that. I don't watch a lot of stuff on Hulu. Add to my stuff is like when you add it to your list.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas on Apple TV Plus, the hell is it called on that? It's like put in my
next. Watch next. Or,
put in my next or something really weird.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's your nemesis.
Nemesis.
But yeah, you get a break this week from your nemesis. Go back to Hulu.
I will never be recommending an Apple TV Plus show ever again.
Are you sure?
For this podcast.
Are you sure? Who knows what
I've unsubscribed unless I'm gonna watch something in the next week and fall in love with it, which I don't think I will.
You don't think there's a chance they could put something out and you see the trailer and you're just like, fuck, I gotta watch that?
I don't think so. It would have to be something really big that everybody's talking about, like Ted Lasso was. Mm-hmm. I mean, if the next season of Ted Lasso comes out, I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yeah, that show's so good.
And I guess you'll have to let me know if the After Party season 2 is worth it, but I'll probably wait until it's fully released.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be back on Apple TV Plus, but it won't be by my choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Abbott Elementary.
Yep.
I am looking forward to it.
Cool.
Is that it?
I think that's it.
We good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Sarah. Where can people contact us?
People can email us at keepwatchingpod@gmail.com or tweet at us at keepwatchingpod, Instagram at us at keepwatchingpod, or leave a comment on our videos on YouTube at keepwatchingpod. And also, if you're enjoying this, go ahead and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, because maybe it'll make other people listen to us too, and that'd be fun.
Yes, that'd be awesome. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.